Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, a.k.a. Starting Parker on Twitter, and boy, do we have one of our biggest shows of the entire year, and I really mean biggest. We might be only reviewing one race, but we are previewing 3 races. We are covering 4 races total, one of the biggest shows of the year. Honestly, on the schedule, I didn't even know this was happening. And then all of a sudden I see on my ARCA timeline, we got 3 races in one weekend. I knew it was the Watkins Glen and Springfield weekend as usual, but I forgot that there was a West race. So yeah, big show for you guys tonight. I'm excited to talk about the wild racing we saw at IRP. And yeah, well, we're going to be basically talking about a short track, a road course, another short track, and a dirt track. So a track for everybody, as they call it. If only we could have gotten like a 2-miler in there just to really split it all up. I'm going to go through my little intro. We go through at the beginning of every podcast, just welcoming you all to the show, and then we'll get right into the ARCA action. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Starting Parker on Twitter for all ARCA tweets, lower budget team tweets, all the fun crap you guys know I tweet all the time. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 1,260 subs, so thank you all for your continued support. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR meter-related content. And I would just like to give a shout-out to my T-shirt for tonight. I got this for a steal on eBay, $20. So we're repping old school Andy Hillenberg tonight. For my boys at Fast Track Racing, this one's for you. So we're going to start off with IRP. Very fun little short track in Brownsburg, Indiana. Only about, 10, 15 minutes away without traffic from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Very, very fun little short track. ARC has been going there for years. NASCAR used to go there all the time. It needs to come back to the NASCAR schedule more often than just the Truck Series. But it's a perfect track for the ARCA series. Reese's 200, one of my favorite names. Nothing better than having a Peanut Butter Cup sponsored race. We had 24 cars. Well, by technicality, we had 25. One broke in practice. We'll get to that in a second. We had 25 cars. Some oddball entries. We had 23 on the initial entry list. And then my good friend Zachary Tinkle over at Fast Track Racing sent me over the entry blank, which had noticed 2 more cars that entered the race. At the time I did last week's podcast, the 0 of Nate Moeller and the 69 of Mike Basham had not entered the race. Literally the day after the podcast, it had been, submitted on the entry list that they were going to be late entries, which you can do. You just have to pay I think it's like a late entry fee or something like that for ARCA standards, which I don't know. I really don't think they should have a late entry fee. If you enter, you enter. You know what I mean? But it was even better, which means we had more cars in last year's race. We were going to have 25 this year versus 24 last year. Some of the oddball entries outside of the regulars. This was an East race, so we had Luke Fenhaus. We did have LeVar Scott. Greg Van Alst was returning for the first time since Charlotte. Isaac Johnson was driving for Caleb Costner. DL Wilson was back after his vicious crash at Phoenix. Chris Martin Jr. was driving for the Noble Motorsports team that Tanner Allen usually drives for. Peterson was bringing 2 cars. The Toyota Dodge was making its next start with Nate behind the wheel, and Mike Basham randomly driving, doing a start and park for Will Kimmel. Definitely some oddball entries. Did not expect to see the 69 there at all. And later we would find out that it was just a start and park entry, which makes sense. They were also running the old Fusion car. I think that's the last car in Kimmel's stable that is still running the Fusion nose, because I believe Scott Melton's cars, all of Scott Melton's cars, and even Will Kimmel's cars that he has in his shop, I've updated to the Mustang nose. Some other notes. Looking at some pictures from some fellow friends, looked like also that Frankie Muniz was running the same car from Iowa, mainly because I think that's the only Fusion that get my teams mixed up here, that Rhett, not Rev, still has in his shop. I think it's their only Fusion they got left. It's a good short track car. So they were running that car for practice. Who else did we expect up top? It's kind of been and we'll get to a little bit later in the show. Who else did we expect up top? William Sawalich lays down a banger of a lap. The only driver in the 110 mile per hour range. All 25 cars, 22 of the 25 cars did take a lap. The 03 of Casey Carden broke a timing chain literally on the first lap of practice. So for poor Casey Carden and Alex Clubb's team, they unfortunately had to load up with really out doing anything. And that really sucks, man. I've done that before, for the longtime listeners of this podcast. Remember, Brad Smith, 2021 Fall Kansas, we blew up on the second lap of practice. And I'm telling you, there's nothing worse, unloading, getting everything unloaded, getting everything unloaded, getting through tech, getting the car ready for practice, getting the front valence on, getting the right tires put on, just to do 2 laps of just practice and then have the engine blow. God, it hurts. So I feel for Alex Clubb's team. Nick Varvel in the chat, as someone who was working at the ARCA race, and you guys were not given, seriously? Nick, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. How could they have not given you guys any Reese's? Were they really not giving any free Reese's to the fans? That's just not right. Nick, I am so sorry. Nick Varvel in the chat, I am so sorry. That is not right. They should have had every damn flavor of Reese's available for you guys to choose from. Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. That sucks. And then Tony Breidinger. I'm not sure what really was keeping the 55 car from practicing. Very rarely do you see a Venturini car not being able to make it out for practice. And Tim Monroe also did not make it out for practice, but 22 cars did. The slowest was Nate Moeller. Again, the Taj, which, for the people who don't know, Peterson had a Dodge car. It was an old Al Geyer car, which was an old Chip Ganassi car. So the best part is we have Wayne Peterson Racing running a Dodge chassis with a Toyota body. Gotta love it. And the best part is it was hand painted. That was not a wrapped car. The car that you guys saw posted on my timeline, that was not a wrapped car. Wayne, actually, they hand painted that 0 car. William Sawalich was first. Connor Jones was second. Perez Delara was third. Hingarani was fourth. And Jesse Love was fifth. Luke Fenhaus all the way down in sixth. So Love and Fenhaus didn't show immediate speed. It took them, into qualifying and the race itself to really show what they had. Once again, the diversity in the field, the top 7 cars separated by half a second, but then you got the next 4 cars separated by a second. It's definitely, one thing to talk about. And again, it's just about, with what they have for engines, what you have for a fresh Ilmore, and, what teams like Venturini and Gibbs can afford above the rest of the field. And we'll get into that conversation because there was quite a bit of talk. Unfortunately, negatively towards the race itself and how, it's just a 2-car show. And while sometimes a 2-car show still is not a bad show, even if it is the same 2 guys every week, sometimes that's racing, man. Going into qualifying results, luckily a lot of the guys, except for the 03, the 10, and the 55 were able to get their differences, get their cars fixed. Monroe was able to make a qualifying lap. And the best part is that with qualifying being a timed session, Tony Breidinger was able to get more than 1 or 2 laps on the track. I think she took 6 laps, 6-7 laps on the track. So she was able to get some practice laps in at least before the race started. Unfortunately, despite the badass Raising Cane's paint scheme that we saw posted on her Twitter, or that Adam Stern posted, about a week ago, we didn't see that car. Probably one of the coolest looking ARCA cars I've ever seen. And it might have just been a concept car for him. We've seen that before. Sometimes these badass looking race cars are just concepts. And we don't actually see the real paint schemes, which would suck. We know Raising Cane's is a sponsor of Tony Breidinger. And hopefully we can actually now see that paint scheme sometime. But we did not see it at this past weekend's race. Another note is that although Luke Fenhaus did qualify 4th, he would go to the rear of the field for the start. I don't quite remember what it was for. D.L. Wilson also had mechanical problems from practice, so he did not make a qualifying run, but would start the race again. Casey Carden would not qualify, and of course would not start the race either. Slowest in qualifying is Brad. I know, like I've said multiple times on this podcast, Brad tries in practice, but does not try in qualifying at all because he knows he's going to be at the rear. Just got to get a lap in because, well, he has to. Some of the good stories of qualifying, we had both rev cars in the top 6. Greg Van Alst, still good to see him back. He was 9th. Frankie Muniz, outside the top 10. So it's clear that this Fusion car that they have, and they didn't particularly run that well at Iowa. I'll be honest with you. The 30 car did not run very well at Iowa. The 30 car did not really run well here. I think it's safe to say this was probably Iowa and this race were 2 of Frankie's worst performances. And I'm not sure if it was really due to him and the inexperience or the fact that they just brought an old car with maybe an older motor. But it's really kind of sad seeing the 30 team not doing as good as what we had hoped them to do. I mean, granted, they weren't doing really any better than this last year with Amber Balkan. I mean, at least they're finishing races compared to last year. I guess that's probably the only upside for the 30 team is they're getting more exposure and they're not crashing. But yeah, on the pole, Jesse Love wins the pole. Shocker there. We kind of pretty much saying the same thing every week now again. But that's, when you got the best car, you're going to win the pole. Him and William Sawalich actually tied. Ran the same exact lap, a 22.363. Both cars tied. It's mainly due to the owner's points is why the 20 ranked above the 18. And then coming into the race itself, again, it was run 5 p.m., kind of early for a race, but it was a doubleheader with the Truck Series race. So, basically right when you got off work, tuned right into that ARCA race. So 24 cars took the green flag, and immediately it was just kind of predicted. Jesse Love gets the lead on William Sawalich. They spread out again, like we know with these ARCA races, they spread out pretty quickly, does the field. Only 24 cars, but even at a 0.566 mile short track, they still spread out pretty evenly, especially, when we got through that first 55 lap run and all the starting parks got off the track. By the time the starting parks had kind of gotten off the track, the field had quite thin, so lap traffic was not as big of an issue. Jesse Love would start, kept about 1.1 second lead. Sawalich, he wasn't letting him get away. He wasn't necessarily letting him get away. But the gap would basically stabilize. It was basically a race for third. The 20 was leading. The 18 was second, about a 1.1 second gap. It really wasn't getting any closer. Well, he wasn't getting any second. Next, we got crew chief Alex in the chat, who was the crew chief on the 98 car for Dale Shear. Looks like they had so they ran all the laps they ran with the left front shock was unbolted. Okay, so maybe that really understands why the 98 was a lot slower than we probably thought he should be. Because I remember watching the race, I'm like, is Dale really this slow? Because he's like almost half a second a lap off Brad. And Dale's usually running about the same exact speed as Brad. So I guess that solves that question as to why Dale was so slow. He was running without a left front shock. Well, that'll do it. I mean, at a track like IRP, that'll do it at a track like that. Running without a left front shock, man, I'm surprised he ran as fast as he did, considering running without shocks at a track like IRP is a death nail. Oh, geez. Well, how about that, folks? You heard that right here first on the podcast. Oh, that is great. Not great for the team. Just glad he made it through unscathed. But man, and meanwhile, all this we'll go ahead and get the starting parks out of the way. Mike Basham, 69 car again, was running actually pretty decently, top 20 at the time. Like so he was like 17th, 18th. Actually had a pretty fast car. Mike Basham's a good driver. He's one of the many members of the Basham family to race ARCA. I think we got Jason, Dugan, Mike, and Daryl Basham. The 4 Bashams, I believe, that have made a start. If I missed one, I missed one. I'm sorry. But the Basham family goes back in ARCA many years. Many, many years. So great to see Mike back. Even if it was just for a starting park, he ran 11 laps. The 0 of Nate Moeller, kind of surprised the amount of laps he ran. He ran 23 laps in the Toyota Dodge car. And I think, again, it was more of a test. Get laps on the car. It'll become more of a primary car probably next year. Because, again, the Toyota that they're using right now is getting quite a bit of mileage on it. Needs some work. Needs a new nose. It's not damaged, just kind of beat up. So they're probably going to change the nose in the offseason. And they're setting up this new Toyota for next year, more than likely. But he ran 23 laps. Tim Monroe pulled off after 30 laps. Again, he's running full-time East, so it made sense why he was running this race, even for Starting Park. Brad Smith ran 34 laps. He actually pulled off due to an oil leak. Now, Brad usually does not. Brad usually will list handling, handling, vibration for his fallouts. So the fact that Brad actually listed oil leak has me thinking. I didn't think he was going to start and park this one. Brad likes to run IRP. It's a fun track for him. He really, really likes IRP. So I didn't think this was a start and park for him. And it wouldn't shock me if the Ford legitimately had an oil leak and he was unfortunately parked by ARCA. So yeah, he was parked. I want to believe he was parked. I don't think he pulled off, or maybe they noticed an oil leak and he just pulled off because, why come and look at it? You're going to be too many laps down. Brayton Laster, he's running one of the oldest cars, or the oldest engines, I should say, in the Fast Track stable. And unfortunately, they had more. I think he said oil was leaking out of the car almost the whole race, or out of the tailpipes. So the engine in the 0-1 for Brayton Laster might be pretty done. But he only ran 40 laps. And then, of course, Dale Shear, he ran 60. So that kind of took care of the cars that were not planning to run the whole distance, leaving the other 18 to run the whole distance. Just wanted to kind of get those out of the way first, so that way we don't forget about them like I usually do. So we ran first 57 laps. Again, it was pretty much all the Jesse Love show. It looked like it really was going to be the Jesse Love show. Luke Fenhaus, to his credit, like we have seen this entire year, and I really think this comes down to the veteran crew chiefing of Shane Huffman. Shane Huffman sets up long-run race cars. And while the 28 does not show very good speed, and probably the first, 10 to 15 laps, after about 20 laps, that car comes alive. That car is a beast. It is unstoppable. And, man, during that first initial run, he was matching lap times. 30 laps in, he was completely matching lap times. In traffic, as well, the leaders were in traffic. 28 was matching lap times and actually catching the top two guys while he was moving through the field. So for the moment, while we looked like we only had a 2-car race up front, we clearly had a third car. All we just needed was a caution, or to make sure that the 28 didn't go a lap down. Ron Hornaday runs the 28 now? Runs the 28 show? Really? Thought that was Shane Huffman that was the crew chief on the 28. Still not 100% sure about that. Yeah, 28. Yeah, Shane Huffman is the crew chief. But yeah, Ron Hornaday. Oh. Well, you heard it right here, folks. Spotting, I guess. Duh. Should have figured that. Yeah, I know. Ron Hornaday's all gray now. I know. It's really weird. Ron Hornaday's what? He's got to be 65 at this point? It's weird. He's still the same great character he always was, but it's weird seeing Ron all gray. Means we're all getting old. I hate that. But back to the race. Fenhaus was actually running down the top two. The 20 and the 18 were in a league of their own. And this is kind of where I started seeing a lot of hate for the race coming on social media about the top two cars week after week after week after week being the same top two guys. And, the only thing I could really say on Twitter was the simplest answer to those questions. The 18 team and the 20 team put the most money into their engines, into their Ilmores, and the race itself. I've said this for years, it's obvious that Venturini puts the most money into their primary championship level car. We saw back in 2021 with Corey Heim. Corey Heim was contending for wins every week, while the 15 and the 25, they could barely keep up with him. And we're seeing the same exact thing this year. Now, it's not saying that they're not putting any effort into the other cars at Venturini. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all, but it's just kind of clear that the 25, 55, and 15 don't have the same effort or the same motor or same type of motor. I mean, it's an Ilmor, yes, duh. They're all Ilmors, but it's not as, let's say, fresh or like, I don't know what kind of term you use, but it's clear that the 20 car is better prepped than the other three. The other three are still good. Other three are still good cars. That's taking nothing away from any of Venturini, but simply put, those two cars have the most money put into them. Therefore, they're going to run top two. You know, the money they have to swap out Ilmors, you know, nobody in ARCA really has that kind of budget. Greg Van Alst doesn't have that budget. Pinnacle Racing Group, I don't know if they have that budget. Even Rev Racing, for as you know, financially good as Rev Racing is, they're not that they don't have that kind of money to swap out Ilmors every single race, probably like Venturini and Gibbs can. So, you know, the unfortunate part about that is, especially with TRD support, you know, you maximize your effort into one specific car. Those two cars are going to be the most dominant cars. That's pretty much how it goes. Let's see here. So let's see this in chat. I just want to be honest. ARC has improved a lot this season, which it has. Main problem is I want to see the party like we see in different drivers fighting for the lead. Again, and I agree. I agree with that, and I've seen that. I agree with that to an extent, but like I said, like I said, I feel like I explained it as clear as possible. Is, you know, the 20 and the 18, when you have the most money pumped into your cars, you know, that's what it takes to win. And that's what we've seen in every division of racing, you know, like for Formula One or the Truck Series, you know, Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. The teams who put the ungodly amount of money into their cars every week will run up front. It's why you see Red Bull. I mean, basically you could say the 18 and the 20 are Red Bull of Formula One almost, you know, or, you know, it's like Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series. They're pretty much unstoppable, whether it's the 19 or the 20 team, you know, or you could say for like Joe Gibbs in the Cup Series. Though the Cup Series, again, with the new car, you kind of can't count the new car because it's spec car. The only thing that's really different about them is the motors and the body, of course. But I more count on the I literally count on the more Xfinity Series and Truck Series. The teams that put the most money in obviously will run the best. It's just plain and simple. You can spend all the money you want on, you know, haulers and, you know, making yourself look good. But if you don't have that motor power, you ain't going to run up front. Not the 20 engine. He literally drinks 3 C4 energy drinks right before the green. You're only supposed to have 2 the entire day. I can believe that. I mean, you know, I work at a gas station, and how many people are buying energy drinks every day is kind of concerning. I mean, I sell 3 Red Bulls to, you know, many people a day, which is not good. It's not what you're supposed to be drinking, but that's what people these days are drinking. I don't drink energy drinks at all, but I like I said, I mean, if people didn't know, I work at a gas station. That's my regular job, and I sell. On average, a person will bring about 3 to 4 energy drinks per transaction, and I'm just like, that's a lot. That's a lot of Monster, Red Bull, C4. I mean, if anything, it's probably the C4 that made him sick a couple weeks ago, because I can't imagine all that caffeine is good for you. But yeah, going back to the battle between the 20 and the 18, it's like I said, it's about, you know, in Formula One, it's like in, you know, in NASCAR. If you put the most money in, you know, you're going to run good. You're going to run competitive. Hi, Scout. One of my dogs is down here. So if you put the most money in, you're going to run competitive. It's just that simple. And yeah, I know we had more competitive teams back in the day, you know, like Cunningham Motorsports. You know, you had Thor Sport when they had their ARCA team. Excuse me. MDM Motorsports. Like I said, we've had a lot of competitive teams, unfortunately, shut down. And obviously that just comes with the times. Briggs Cunningham, you know, he was really getting up there in age. MDM Motorsports, that's still a mystery to me. They won the championship and then shut down. Fielded 4 full-time cars, and then they just shut down. And you just ask yourself, well, then why aren't those other teams like Ford teams running very well? Well, again, they're not having as much money pumped into their cars. I know they're Ford factory teams, the 30 and the 32, but they're just not putting in the money that the TRD is. Same thing goes for Chevrolet. Chevrolet is not putting in the money that TRD is to make sure the rev cars are running as competitive as can be. And I know it sucks, but it is what it is. And, Pinnacle Racing Group, they've been very solid. I mean, I did not think they were going to be as good as they are this year. And that's a very welcome addition, not only to see, a Chevrolet team running competitive, but a relative unknown organization that I believe is in aren't they in their first year of operations, which makes that even more impressive. But when you have Shane Huffman behind the wheel, what do you expect? So back to the race. 56 laps in, the 18 was actually catching him. And in the process of passing him, and unfortunately, this is when we had our first caution of the race, coming off of turn 4, the 11 of Zachary Tinkle was right next to the 31 of Rita Goulet. So we really had nowhere to go. And unfortunately, right as he was trying to go for the lead, William Sawalich, I believe he actually had the lead at this point, gets into the 11 of Zachary Tinkle, heavily damaging the front of the 18. Luckily, the 11 doesn't hit anything. 20 gets back by as we come to the first caution. Tony Breidinger was the free pass. Get back going green on lap 69. Jesse Love, again, continued to lead as William Sawalich did lead that one lap, so it was not going to be a flag-to-flag race for Jesse Love. The one thing that this did help, it did bring Luke Fenhaus, who by that point was already about 6th or 5th, now up to the top field. So we really could see what all these teams were made of. 5 laps into the restart, we had our Sean Hingorani moment where he went into turn 1. He'd been complaining of his brakes, unfortunately having problems. And, they would start off great in the run, but then they would get worse over time. And I wonder if this was a brake problem. Because going into turn 1, he went under the 6 of LeVar Scott, and it's like he just had nothing there. And they both slid into the wall hard. The 6 gets pretty much destroyed. The right side of the 6 is killed. Somehow the 15 of Hingorani is relatively unscathed. He came away with literal no damage, but the 6 was killed for the race. So that kind of sucked for LeVar. 15 got away. It did bring out a yellow. I can understand why they threw the yellow, but at the end of the day, nobody spun out, so maybe they didn't need a yellow. So they racked him up again. We ran 21 laps of the scheduled break. Again, Jesse Love still leading through all of this. Scheduled break, free pass was the 35 at lap 74. Free pass at the scheduled break was the 32 of Christian Rose. At this point, cars that came in and out of the garage, the 95 of Chris Martin Jr., they've been having electrical problems. They've been on and off the pit road in the garage. Rita and AJ were kind of the 2 stragglers still out there. And then everybody else, you got the Hellenberg cars who can keep up decent pace. Isaac Johnson, he was doing a pretty decent job for what the 93 team can do. And then, like I said, poor Frankie Muniz, arguably, like I said, one of his worst performance of the season. By this point, he was already 2 laps down. This early. So, yeah, not the race that Frankie Muniz wanted or needed after having that top 5 finish in Michigan. So we get back going green again. On lap 107. And a much shocking twist. We didn't expect to see him only lead 1 lap, or we expected him to take the lead. But a new guy took the lead. It was not the 28. It was not even the 18. Sean Hingorani actually got the lead. It was really shocking. He just went up there and took the lead. The 20 didn't fight him. And, yeah, I'm like, man, Sean Hingorani, is he gonna steal this one? And, unfortunately it was short-lived. But, he still got the lead. So we did actually see a Venturini pass for the lead, which is something I did not expect to see. He would stay out front for 21 laps. Jesse Love, easily, Sean used up his stuff at a track like that, heated up his tires too much. But during this, Luke Fenhaus had passed the 18, which was big because remember, this is an East combo race. We are running for East Series points. So the 20 and the 18, the 28 and the 18, I should say, are in a heavy battle right now for the East Series championship. And I tweeted it out saying, like, even if Luke Fenhaus does not win this race, as long as he can finish ahead of the 18, he gains points on the 18. And when we go into 2 more combo races, which will easily feature 20-plus cars each, we still got a heavy E-Series championship on our hands. We'll talk more about that when we get this done. We'll talk about the point standings. So the 10 of Tim Monroe Park that's sitting 5th in points. 2.4 of an $80,000 points fund check in the banquet versus 4%. What does that mean? Alex, if you could explain that a little bit more. Dale Shear wants that top 5 so bad. Does that mean what? What does that mean? If you could explain a little bit more, Alex, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, Luke Fenhaus was catching the 20. He passed the 15 like it was nothing, even though Hingorani clearly tried, to play some defense to help his teammate. It wasn't going to work. Jesse Love retook the lead on lap 138, only held it for 29 laps. Here came the 28, and he was bringing the 18 with him. It's not like Sawalich, was, doing nothing here. He was, battling just as hard. They had done some good work on the front nose, taping the living crap out of it. But Luke Fenhaus, man, Shane Huffman with that long run speed, it was not beatable. He was running a good 10th to 2/10 a second a lap. Seriously, I mean, it's amazing how fast Luke Fenhaus has really taken to these, these stock cars. It's amazing. The ARCA stock cars. He set up like a veteran, like literally like a veteran, because this track fits his driving style. Like a veteran, he set up Jesse Love perfectly, drove right around him, took the lead. And I'm telling you, the 20 had nothing for him. The 18 had nothing for him, and the 20 had nothing for him. This was Luke Fenhaus's race to steal and to lose. You talk about raw talent with a rookie organization nonetheless. And keep in mind, this team, the Pinnacle Racing Group, they don't have, $70,000, multiple hundreds of $1,000s in sponsorship. Their sponsor, Chevrolet Performance. They don't have really any huge sponsorship deals like Starkey Sound Gear with Gibbs, Gear Wrench with the 15, or JBL headphones with the 20. It's just Chevrolet Performance, which makes it this much more impressive of what the 28 team is doing. And I'll say it right now, the 28 had it. All the 20 was going to do was use up his stuff if he tried to run the 28 down. This was Luke's race to lose. So now you wonder, man, were we going to see any shenanigans? We know Venturini's got 4 bullets out there. Are we going to see some shenanigans? Now, again, I don't want to accuse anything, but I think we need to call it, based maybe off of what we saw. Sean Hingorani, he was doing his deal. But unfortunately, with 17 laps to go, we had a caution. The 32 of Christian Rose had spun. Now, we were all like, crap, man, did Christian Rose just spin again? Was it a Christian Rose moment? Unfortunately, we were wrong. It was not a Christian Rose moment. Connor Jones had gotten into the 32 as they went into turn 1. And I watched the crash at least 10 times. And for as long as Connor Jones has been in this series, he doesn't pull moves like that unless he's either told to or you just have no talent whatsoever. I'm serious. Connor Jones, I feel like he's better than that. And I honestly feel like he's better than that. So, was it intentional? Was it not? Because clearly it was a Venturini car causing a caution that we knew the 28 did not have short run speed. The 20 car did. So we can't be 100% sure if it was intentional. Did it look intentional? Yes. But unfortunately, we cannot 100% clarify that it was intentional. Though I will say, though, like I said, a Venturini car causing a caution, trying to help, possibly helping a Venturini car win the race is a little suspicious. It is. It definitely is. And unfortunately, our worst fears were realized on the restart. They get going. Luke Fenhaus, like we predicted, man, just no short run speed. He tried. Luke tried to defend it, but there was no defending it. Jesse Love did get past the 28 of Fenhaus. Luke tried to run him back down, but there was not enough time. They only had 10 laps. So Jesse Love wins his 7th race of the year. Luke Fenhaus still gets a solid second-place finish and gains 2 points on William Sawalich. Sean Hingorani holds on for 3rd. LeVar Scott still hung on for a top 5 despite the damaged car. Connor Jones 6th, Greg Van House 7th. Andres Perez de Lara, man, it's not one of his better performances. 8th, Tony Bridinger 9th, Christian Rose still ended up 10th, Frankie Muniz 11th, Isaac Johnson 12th, Zachary Tinkle 13th, John Garrett 14th, Dio Wilson 15th. Rita Goulet actually finished, and actually one of her better performances. Still isn't saying much, but still a good performance for her nonetheless. 16th, AJ Moyer. He was on and off pit road a lot in that last run. 17th, and then the DNFs, Chris Martin Jr., and then, of course, the Starton Parks, which we listed at the beginning of the race review. Still hard to call it 100% in my opinion. Could you call it intentional? Yes. If you're a guy who's tired of seeing the 20 win every week, obviously you're going to be mad. That's now 7 wins for Jesse Love this season. He's on a Ty Gibbs level 2021 season where Ty Gibbs won 10 of the 20 races. Should have won more, but bad luck kind of got in their way. Excuse me. But 7 wins for Jesse Love. The point standings, race was okay. We'll get to the point standings in a second. Overall, I thought the race was okay. I will say, still not the biggest fan of Jamie Little's commentary. I feel like Phil Parsons and Trevor Bayne by themselves would be a way better commentator duo, just the two of them. She's a great pit reporter. She just can't do it in the booth. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be as nice as I can, but I don't think she's cut out for the booth. I think she's one of the greatest women's pit reporters in history. But Jamie Little is not a main commentator. But yeah, Connor Jones in general this season has kind of been a wrecking ball, whether it's been in trucks or whether it's been in ARCA. He's not really had a good year. But yeah, now the main series standings, which were finally updated. Again, just give the championship. We all know Jesse Love's the champion at this point. 98-point lead over Frankie Muniz. I think once he hits 100 points, he will clinch the championship. I do believe so. 7 wins, 10 top 5s. 11 of the 12 races this year, he's finished in the top 10. I mean, his average finish is 4.2. It's amazing. Even then, when you're putting the most money in to have no bad luck and doing this well is quite impressive. But yeah, Frankie Muniz is 2nd, Andres Perez de Lara is 3rd. They're in a pretty decent battle for 2nd in points, so that'll kind of be a fun battle to watch going forward. Christian Rose is kind of settled into 4th. John Garrett settled into 5th. AJ Moyer and Brad have settled into their positions. Tony Bridinger, she's actually, even though she's missed 2 races, she's only 3 points behind Brad, but of course the 50-point bonuses will probably kill her efforts to gain back through the field. Tony Cosentino and Jack Wood, who have not run in a while, are still 9th and 10th in points. The Owners' Championship, kind of the big battle to talk about right now in the main series. The Owners' Championship, obviously, with the last couple wins, have really helped the 20 car, and the gap has been extended. It's now 17 points in the Owners' Championship. So, man, could Venturini lock up both championships? The 18 team, obviously, that is where the big money comes from ARCA at the end of the year. And the 18 team, they want that Owners' Championship. So, will the 18 team start to get a little dirty trying to get this Owners' Championship? I think they got a good shot. I do think they're going to struggle this weekend at the Glen. I think the 20 will have a better run than them, but maybe they'll get them on the dirt. I don't know. William Sawalich is about to enter some unfamiliar territory again. Doesn't have a lot of road course experience. He's only got 3 or 4 road races under him. This season they've even run Sawalich in some West races, trying to get him the main Yeah, $400,000 at the banquet. It's a lot of money for those owners, man. They want that money. That's what Gibbs is going after, man. That's what they want. So West is 120,000 and East is only 80,000. So yeah. But I'm gonna be surprised to see how this is going forward. We saw this come down to the last race last year at Toledo. Literally within the last 2 laps, it came down. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun for sure. But yeah, I wouldn't definitely not count out the 18 car at all. They're in this until the last race, and trust me, they'll get dirty if they have to win this owners championship, because we just expect that out of Gibbs. We expect that out of Gibbs. We expect that out of Venturini. That's what makes this fun. The East Championship. Again, the championship to still talk about right now. Again, this was an East combo race, so East points were given out. William Sawalich leads Luke Fenhaus by just 9 points. Again, guys, we have a fun championship battle on our hands with just 2 races to go. Milwaukee, which I feel like will suit Sawalich, and then we have Bristol. And that's where I feel like Luke Fenhaus and Shane Huffman, that's the race that they are waiting for, is Bristol. That's where I feel like Luke Fenhaus is really, really going to show what he's got. LeVar Scott, he's settled into third, 30 points behind. Zachary Tinkle has settled into fourth, 54 points behind. Tim Monroe settled into fifth. Like I said, Dale Shear and Tim Monroe separated by 5 points. So will we see Tim Monroe, try to maybe run the full race at Milwaukee, maybe to try to make sure they stay ahead? I know Alex in the chat, he doesn't want that to happen. So it's going to be fun, guys. It's a very, very fun East Series championship battle. And it's not just the main series title to talk about. We still have the Owners Championship also to talk about in the East Series. As well. In the East Division, we have the East Series Owners Championship. And right now, guys, the Joe Gibbs 18 car leads the Owners Championship, but separated by 9 points is second and third. Both Billy Venturini's 20 car and Mark Webb's 28 car are tied right now with 309. So think about that. We got 3 close championships coming out of this race. We got the Owners Championship in the main division, which is only separated by 17 points. You got the East Series Drivers Championship and Owners Championships, which are separated by 9 points. Again, people want to say this series is not competitive. Trust me, it's going to get competitive. Bristol's going to get ugly. That's all I'm going to say about Bristol. Coming for this Owners Championship and the Drivers Championship, Bristol could get ugly, which means it's Bristol, baby. I'm just trying to say, guys, Bristol is going to be a fun race. I cannot stress that enough. It is going to be a must-see race. I am so excited for that race. Absolutely so excited for that. The E-Series Championship, owners and drivers. And then, of course, we're going to have over 30 cars for that race. So, that race is just going to be absolute chaos. I love it. But that was IRP. Very, very fun race overall. I do agree. It'd be nice to see some other people lead the race. But like I said, you want to lead the race, you got to go pump the money into it to be able to lead. So that's how it goes. Fun championship battles all around. And the E-Series Championship, can't wait for it to heat up even more. But yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, watch all the Parkers come back on track more and more for points. Yeah, the old cat and mouse game. Gotta love it. We're going to transfer gears here into our preview portion because we got 3 races to preview. Yeah, this is one of the nightmare weeks for the ARCA Racing Series, ARCA Menard Series, where we have 2 main series races in 3 days. The Watkins Glen race and the dirt track race in Springfield. 2 of the most different type of tracks possible that we're going to run in 3 days. You got to love it. But yeah, the Dutch Boy 100 at the Illinois State Fairgrounds and the General Tire 100 at the Glen. We'll start off with the General Tire 100 at the Glen. 23 cars, still a pretty decent field. Not as big as we've seen in years past. 2021 had 29. I think last year had like 27. But again, you also got to account for all the teams that have shut down. unfortunately, through the offseason. So still having 23 cars, still a pretty decent field. The entries goes like this. The 2 of Andres Perez de Lara, of course. We got Quarterman, Dale Quarterly back in the 4, his own car, of course. Jack Wood is back in the 6. We got Ed Pampa in the 10 for Hillenberg. Zach Herron in the 11 for Hillenberg. Stuntman Stanton Barrett back in the 12. Gotta love Stanton Barrett. He's cool. Brett Cruz will be making his debut in the 15 for Venturini. I believe he's from what? Isn't he from Trans Am? I think is where he's from. Is a Trans Am series. William Sawalich in the 18. Isn't Brett Cruz, wasn't he born in 2008? Wasn't Brett Cruz born in 2008? Boy, I feel old. Chris Wright is in the 25 for Venturini. He's a supposed road ringer. Connor Zilch, he's in the 28, one of the rare non-East races for the 28 team. So it's going to be kind of cool to see what that team can do. I would definitely not sleep on them. Frankie Muniz in the 30. They are running the same car from Mid-Ohio. Casey Carden in the 03, usually in the 03, I should say. He is going to be in the 31 this weekend for Rise. So a good pickup for them. Casey's a decent road racer. And he'll be in the 74 car as well for Mike Harmon. Christian Rose will be in the 32, of course. Brad Smith in the 48. He's probably going to bring the Chevrolet, as we know, Brad. Brad does not like road courses. He'll be the first one to tell you. He doesn't like going to road courses. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Brett Cruz was born in April of 2008. Do you guys feel old yet? I feel old. I was 6.5 in 2008, and this guy is making a start for Venturini. I mean, pretty soon, 2 more years, guys. Just wait, 2 more years, and we will have people that were born in 2010 running ARCA. Oh, boy. I feel old, and I'm only 22. Has Brett ever thought about getting a road course car? No. He does not like road courses. So he's bringing the Chevrolet. Don't expect him to run more than a couple laps. This is one of the rough weekends for Brad. He's going to start. I can tell you right now, he's going to start and park both races. Start and park the Glen, and he's going to start and park Springfield with the Chevrolet, more than likely. Moving on, Jake Finch in the 55. We got Corey LaJoy in the 63 car for Jeff Spraker's team. John Garrett in the 66. The other pizza man, Andy Jankoyak in the 73. Bob Schatt in the 75. Unfortunately, Sean Hingarani is not in the 15 because I think we'd all love to see Bob Schatt beat the crap out of him. Parker Retzloff in the 02 for Young's Motorsports. Great to see Young's Motorsports back. It's an off weekend for trucks, so it kind of makes sense for them to be running. ARCA. AJ Moyer is in the 03. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this is actually Alex's car or if this is going to be the Peterson Toyota with just a 03. Instead, like they're going to make the 06 into a 03. And yes, Bob Pockris. Yes, you guys didn't know Bob Pockris will be pit reporting the ARCA race. So that's cool. But yeah, Alex Clubb, I can tell you right now, he will be starting parking both races. He'll be starting parking on Sunday. Not sure if this is actually their car or if they're going to be bringing, like I said, if Peterson's bringing 2 cars and they're just going to remask it as a 03. But it's also to keep AJ in the points as well because he is running full time. And then, of course, the 06 of Tim Richmond, which will be Tim's own car. So, yeah, pretty decent field. Yeah, you got your couple of starting parks in there, but you got a pretty decent field. Potential winners, like I said, Jesse Love. We know he's a decent road racer. We know he is. So far this season, he did not win Mid-Ohio, but that was mainly due, to Tyler Ankrum. There was no beating Tyler Ankrum in that race. Last year in this race, we had Brandon Jones win, back when Brandon was still driving for Joe Gibbs and he was running the 81 car for a couple of races. Nick Sanchez was also a threat to win that race. Sammy Smith actually led, like I said, even we had Sammy Smith in this race too. So a lot of the players from last year's race are not in this one, is what I'm trying to say. So Jesse Love did not lead any laps. Did not lead any laps in last year's race. It's important to know too. I'm not going to those races at all. So no. Yeah, I know the Peterson tape job should be great. But I know what I'm trying to say. Oh yeah, Jesse Love, duh. I don't think Jesse Love is the favorite going into really either of these races, to be honest with you. I really don't. Jesse Love has obviously some decent road racing experience. But I would give the edge to maybe Chris Wright. Like I said, he's got a lot of road racing experience. We know Jake Finch, he's good on the road courses. Jack Wood, he's really good on the road courses. He might not be good on the ovals. Jack Wood has a tough time on ovals, but he's a pretty decent road racer. Andres Perez de Lara, he's a good road racer. Sawalich, he struggles on the road courses too. I think Corey LaJoie, Jeff Spraker, he's been in the business for a long time. Jeff Spraker knows how to set up a car, and he gets, I'm sure they're going to bring a good Ilmore with the amount of money that Corey LaJoie is bringing, Cup driver Corey LaJoie. So I would not rule out Corey LaJoie either. I would not rule him out. I think Brett Cruz and Corey LaJoie are actually the two favorites for this race. Brett Cruz for his road racing experience, and Corey LaJoie just because he's a beast. So, yeah, Corey LaJoie is actually my pick to win the race. I think Corey LaJoie and the 63 team are going to pull off an upset, and they are going to win the race for Paris Wixon Racing. My dark horse pick is Brett Cruz. Obviously, the championship battle to watch, the 18 team, they got to start gaining points in the 20. So don't be shocked if you might start to see some dirty tactics from the 18 starting to show. The West Series, the Napa Auto Parts 150. Boy, we haven't seen that name before. The West Series at Evergreen Speedway, a fun Evergreen track on the West Coast. Never really talked a lot about the West Series, this season. They haven't really been doing much. I like the West Series. I do. Obviously, the series struggles in general, for car counts. The West Series, it's funny. It's kind of its own. It really is its own thing compared to the East Division. A lot of the teams are cut off, from social media. A lot of the drivers are cut off from social media. It's kind of a quiet area. A lot of the teams over there run the Yates. A lot of them don't run the Ilmores. It really is a different type of ARCA series. And I like it. I really do. The West Series is really unlike the other two series. It's its own special thing. Pretty decent car count in here for Evergreen. Again, small tracks, so you don't need a huge car count. We'll go through the entry list. Todd Souza, of course, in the 3. It's been, in my opinion, a pretty disappointing season for Todd Souza. The 4 of Eric Nascimento Jr., the 5 of Cole Raz. Good to see him back in the Jerry Pitts entry. Takuma Koga, Tyler Reif, still in the 13. I believe he'll be in that car for the rest of the year. Sean Hingorani in the 15. Tanner Reif in the 16. Landon Lewis in the 17. McAnally with another entry this weekend. Eric Johnson Jr. in the 19. Ethan Nascimento in the 21. Jake Drew is in the 41. For the Loudon Jackson team. And Jake Drew will be in the I believe, will be driving the 41 at Phoenix. He will be driving one of the Loudon Jackson cars at Phoenix, as far as I know. Oh, God, where did the entrance? There it is. Trevor Huddleston, of course, in the 50. Kyle Keller in the 70. Nick Jonades in the 77. Bradley Erickson in the 88. And David Smith in the 05. The West Series points, again, pretty decent championship battle shaping up there as well. Landon Lewis leads by just 7 points over the mighty Sean Hingorani. And Trevor Huddleston would not count him out either, and Bradley Erickson, 21 and 24 points behind respectively, with, I believe, also, 2 or 3, 4 races to go. I think there's 11 races this year for the West Series, so they still got quite a distance to go. Yeah, Landon Lewis and Sean Hingorani then definitely putting on some good battles. Sean Hingorani won the latest race at Shasta. So for Landon Lewis, man, they got to start putting some stuff back together if they want to win this championship. Yeah, if you want to drive the 46, if you want to drive a starting park for Chris Loudon's team, it takes only $4,000 to do it. So, hey, anybody watching this podcast who lives on the West Coast, you want to go run an ARCA race? $4,000. Oh, Jacob Smith will drive the 41 at Evergreen, I guess. Oh, well, that sucks for Jake Drew. He still did a great job for that car at Shasta before it blew up. But yeah, that's the West Series race. That'll be on Saturday. Again, the best part is that all three of these ARCA races, they're not happening at the same time. Friday's Watkins Glen race is around, 5, 6 o'clock. This race is about 10:30 Saturday night. And the Dutch Boy 100 at Springfield is around 1 p.m. on Sunday. So you got time, so to say. My pick for that race, I'm going to go. Well, I would have taken Jake Drew, but now that he's out, I'm not going to take him. I'm actually going to go with, we'll go with Landon Lewis. We'll go with Landon Lewis, and my dark horse, I'll take Tyler Reif for that one. But yeah, that ARCA West race should be fun. Don't have time to go over the purses because, again, we don't want to be here for too long. Yeah, Loden Jackson's deal. Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, what's exactly happened to Landon Lewis? I know. Ever since Portland, man. Last Chance Racing has confirmed shut down now. Well, that sucks. I mean, Kyle Keller was pretty much operating that car all by himself anyway with his own money. So, good for Kyle Keller. I mean, he's pretty much taken over his own operation, so he's pretty much an owner-driver himself, even though he's not exactly listed as the owner of his car. And then, of course, we got the Dutch Boy 100, our final race, the other main series ARCA race. A little bit of smaller field compared to what we saw last year, but still a good field nonetheless. We got the 2 of Andres Perez de Lara. We got the 4 of Dale Quarterly. Now, again, Dale Quarterly bought the Bill Hendren 24 car that Ryan Unzinger ran last year. So we know this is a winning car. So be on the lookout for Dale Quarterly on Sunday. Sean Core will be in the 8. Again, very surprising entry to see him. Ken Schrader, the guy who just won a Pinty Series race at 68, will be in the 10 for Fast Track Racing. Gotta love it. Tim Monroe will be starting part. Actually, he runs the full dirt races. I forgot about that. So Tim Monroe might run the whole race. Dallas Freeway, good to see him back. He'll be a starting park. Brett Cruz in the 15 again. Kelly Kovsky will be in the 16. The Al Geyer team. Good to see them back. They run the dirt races every year. They're a local Midwestern team, so cool to see them back. William Sawalich, of course, in the 18. Jesse Love in the 20. Taylor Remier. She'll be in the Buzzballs Toyota. It's a really cool-looking car. She's a dirt racer, badass. She's beautiful and badass is basically the best way to describe Taylor. One of the really she's a really good-looking girl. I'll just say that. Really good-looking girl. She's a beautiful and badass. That's what I'll say about her. She'll be in the 25. Cool to see more women in the sport driving. No 55. No Tony Breidinger in this race. Nope, no 55 car. Just 3 cars for Venturini. Brayton Laster, the other pizza man, will be driving the 31 for Rise Motorsports. So that's kind of cool for Brayton to drive for a different team. Christian Rose, of course, in the 32. Brad Smith in the 48. Again, Brad will be starting parking. John Garrett in the 66. Alex Clubb in his 03 starting park. And AJ Moyer in the 06. Not sure if that'll be a starting park. Wouldn't shock me. Considering his inexperience, and maybe they just want to save the car. But, yeah, solid field nonetheless. They always put on a good race here. Lots of inexperience. Jesse Love did not win last year's race. He was very competitive. Frankie Muniz, like I said, so much inexperience in this race. How chaotic will it be? I don't know. I don't know how chaotic in the dirt. Frankie Muniz, inexperience. Jesse Love, he's still got inexperience on it. He's only run a handful of them. Let's see here. I would say if I want to get an honest race pick for this one, man, honestly, I'm going to say this, that Kelly Kovsky, he might be the guy to win. I don't know. Kelly Kovsky and Ken Schrader, I'm not even going to throw out Taylor with her dirt experience. I'm actually going to go, this might shock you, I'm going to go with Kelikowski actually as my winner's pick. Kelikowski as my winner's pick. And I'm going to go with Ken Schrader as my underdog pick because, well, why not pick Ken Schrader? So, yeah, 3 ARCA races in 1 weekend. Is it going to be chaotic? Absolutely. Do the teams hate it? Yes, they do, because I've spoken to a couple of them. The last thing ARCA needs to do is run 3 races in 2 days. I don't understand why. If you guys are hearing some chatter in the background, it's because my father has to come down and do bills. I'm in his office. If you guys didn't know, this is my dad's office. That's his fish on the wall. This might be my sheet metal, but no, this is Dad's office. So that's all right. We're pretty much done with the show anyway, and the SRX finale is on. So perfect time to wrap up the show. Yeah, guys, 3 ARCA races this weekend. They're all the West race will be on Flow Sports, but both of the main division races will be on Fox Sports. So please check them out. They'll be a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, follow along, of course, on my channel for live updates. And we'll see you all next week with the ARC Racing Podcast and Backmarker Battles. So again, that's like I said, until next week's shows. Like and subscribe to this channel, turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast. And, we'll catch you all next week. I'm going to get out of here so my dad can do his paperwork. And we'll see you all next week, guys. Colby Evans, starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.